What agency issues driver licenses in Utah? Utah Driver License Division under the Department of Public Safety. This agency is responsible for licensing drivers throughout the state. Next question. What is the minimum age to apply for a learner permit in Utah? 15 years old. This is when new drivers can begin learning under supervision. Let's keep going. How long must a Utah learner permit holder practice before getting a provisional license? At least 6 months. This practice period helps drivers gain experience before advancing. Next point. How many hours of supervised driving are required before a Utah minor can get a provisional license? 40 hours including 10 nighttime hours. These hours ensure exposure to different driving conditions. Let's continue. What is the minimum age to obtain a full unrestricted driver license in Utah? 17 years old. Drivers can receive full driving privileges at this age if requirements are met. Let's move on. What nighttime driving restriction applies to Utah provisional license holders under 17? No driving between midnight and 5 a.m. unless accompanied by a licensed adult. This restriction reduces risks associated with late-night driving. Continuing. What passenger restriction applies to Utah provisional license holders under 17 in the first 6 months? No more than one passenger under 21 who is not a family member unless a licensed adult is present. This helps limit distractions for inexperienced drivers. Next question. What is the BAC limit for drivers over 21 in Utah? 0.05%, which is lower than most other states. Utah has one of the strictest impaired driving limits in the country. Let's keep going. What is the BAC limit for drivers under 21 in Utah? Any detectable amount, 0 tolerance. Underage drivers are prohibited from having any measurable alcohol in their system. Next point. What is the implied consent law in Utah? Any driver on Utah roads consents to chemical testing if lawfully arrested for DUI. By driving, motorists agree to testing under these circumstances. Let's continue. What is the penalty for refusing a chemical test in Utah? License suspension of 18 months for a first refusal. Refusing a test carries significant consequences. Let's move on. What is the speed limit in a school zone in Utah when children are present? 20 miles per hour. Reduced speeds help protect children near schools. Continuing. What is the default speed limit in urban areas in Utah? 25 miles per hour unless otherwise posted. Drivers should always check for posted speed limits. Next question. What is the speed limit on Utah interstate highways? 75 miles per hour for passenger vehicles unless otherwise posted. Some areas may have different posted limits. Let's keep going. What is the speed limit on rural highways in Utah unless otherwise posted? 65 miles per hour. Rural road limits may vary depending on conditions and signage. Next point. What is the basic speed law in Utah? Never drive faster than is safe for current conditions regardless of the posted limit. Drivers must adjust speed for weather, traffic, and road conditions. Let's continue. What must a driver do at a stop sign in Utah? Stop completely before the line or crosswalk, look in all directions, and proceed when safe. A full stop is required. Let's move on. What must a driver do at a yield sign? Slow down and give the right-of-way to crossing traffic, merging only when safe. Yield signs require drivers to be prepared to stop if necessary. Next question. When is a right turn on red permitted in Utah? After a complete stop if no sign prohibits it and the intersection is clear. Drivers must yield before turning. Next question. What does a flashing yellow traffic light mean in Utah? Slow down and proceed with caution. Drivers should remain alert for cross traffic and hazards. Let's keep going. What does a flashing red traffic light mean in Utah? Stop completely, treat it as a stop sign and proceed when safe. Full stopping is required. Next point. What is the correct following distance under normal conditions in Utah? At least 2 seconds, with more recommended in bad weather. Additional space improves reaction time. Let's continue. How far before a turn must a Utah driver activate the turn signal? At least 100 feet. Early signaling helps other road users anticipate your actions. Let's move on. What must a driver do when a school bus has red lights flashing and stop arm extended on an undivided road? Stop in both directions and remain stopped until the arm retracts and lights stop. Protecting children around school buses is a top priority. Continuing. On a divided highway, must a driver stop for a school bus with red lights in the opposite direction? No, only vehicles on the same side must stop. The divided roadway separates opposing traffic. Next question. What must a driver do when an emergency vehicle with lights and sirens approaches? Pull to the right edge and stop until it passes. This allows emergency responders to proceed safely. Let's keep going. What is the Utah move over law? Move over one lane if safe or slow to a reasonable speed when passing stopped emergency maintenance tow or highway patrol vehicles with lights activated. This law protects roadside workers and responders. Next point, how far must a driver follow behind a fire truck responding to an emergency? At least 500 feet. Following too closely can interfere with emergency operations. Let's continue. How far from a fire hydrant is parking prohibited in Utah? 15 feet. This ensures firefighters can access the hydrant quickly. Let's move on. How far from an intersection or crosswalk is parking prohibited in Utah? 30 feet. Maintaining these areas clear improves visibility and safety. Continuing. What does a solid double yellow center line mean? No passing in either direction. Both directions of traffic must remain in their lanes. Next question. What does a broken yellow center line mean? Passing permitted when safe and visibility is adequate. Drivers must still ensure the maneuver can be completed safely. Let's keep going. What does a solid white line between lanes mean? Stay in your lane, do not cross. Solid white lines discourage lane changes. Next point. What does a broken white line between lanes mean? Lane changes are permitted with caution. Drivers should check mirrors and blind spots. Let's continue. What is the correct hill parking procedure facing downhill with a curb? Turn wheels toward the curb. This helps stop the vehicle if it rolls. Let's move on. What is the correct hill parking procedure facing uphill with a curb? Turn wheels away from the curb so the car rolls into it if brakes fail. This provides an additional safety measure. Continuing. What is the Utah law on handheld mobile device use while driving? Prohibited for all drivers while the vehicle is in traffic. Drivers should maintain their attention on the road. Next question. Is texting while driving prohibited in Utah? Yes, for all drivers as a primary offense. Law enforcement can stop drivers specifically for texting violations. Let's keep going. What is the Utah seat belt law? All occupants in all seating positions must wear a seat belt. Seat belts are required for everyone in the vehicle. Next point. What child restraint is required in Utah? Children under 8 who are under 4 feet 9 inches tall must use an appropriate child safety seat. Proper restraints improve child safety in crashes. Let's continue. What does a diamond-shaped yellow sign mean? Warning of a hazard or change in road conditions ahead. These signs alert drivers to upcoming situations. Let's move on. What does a round black and yellow sign with an X and 2 R's mean? Railroad crossing ahead. Drivers should prepare for possible train traffic. Continuing. What must a driver do at a railroad crossing with flashing lights and lowered gates? Stop and remain until the gates rise and lights stop. Crossing while signals are active is extremely dangerous. Next question. What is hydroplaning and how should a driver respond? Loss of traction from water under tires. Ease off the accelerator without braking hard. Sudden braking can worsen the skid. Let's keep going. What is the correct response to a tire blowout at highway speed? Grip the wheel firmly, ease off the accelerator, steer straight, and let the vehicle slow naturally. Staying calm helps maintain control. Next point. What is the Utah law on passing on a 2-lane road? Pass only when a dashed yellow line is on your side with adequate clear visibility ahead. Drivers must ensure enough distance to complete the pass safely. Let's continue. What is the minimum safe passing distance from a bicyclist in Utah? At least 3 feet. This space helps protect cyclists from vehicle contact. Let's move on. What must a driver do when approaching a blind pedestrian with a white cane or guide dog? Stop and yield the right-of-way regardless of traffic signals. Extra caution is required around visually impaired pedestrians. Continuing. What must a driver do after an accident with injury or property damage over $1,500 in Utah? Stop, render aid, exchange insurance and license information, and report to law enforcement. These are important legal responsibilities after a crash. Next question. What is the Utah law on leaving the scene of an accident with injury? It is a crime to leave the scene of an accident involving injury or death. Drivers must remain at the scene and fulfill their legal duties.